Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is December 3rd. This reading, I am focusing on Canadian politics, particularly Alberta politics. I have received several emails and requests. There's a lot going on in Alberta, and not all of it is great. So I'm going to take a look at that and just, kind of see what we can see. So... the UCP have a majority government. They have a significant majority government, which in many ways, frankly, means they're sort of like unstoppable, right? I mean, Rachel Notley is doing a really good job, I think, of creating that opposition. But again, the opposition is not strong enough to, really sort of affect considerable change, although she is doing a relative, the NDPs are doing a good job of kind of keeping some of Kenny's transgressions front and center so that more people at least have a fighting chance of becoming sort of aware of them. All right, come on down. I have a question. Okay, so we are looking at Canadian politics, especially with the focus on Alberta. Okay. Canada, Alberta politics, Canada, Alberta politics, Canada, Alberta politics. Yeah. Okay, so there are a lot of people right now, particularly people who have sort of Alberta government union type jobs. So nurses, lab technician people, people who work in hospitals, teachers. There's a ton more, and frankly, my brain's kind of blank. So, but you understand what I'm saying. If you work under the umbrella of the Alberta government and you are attached to a union, which of course you would be, then there is a lot of instability for you. And frankly, there's some heartbreak coming. I mean, I would love to be able to soft sell this and tell you, no, it's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. This is what you have to, just realize. Kenny has been in government for, 6 months or however long it's been. His approval rating is still sitting high here in Alberta. Now, it is losing strength, as is, I believe it's Mo in Saskatchewan. Their sort of ultra-conservative politics are really starting, their approval ratings are starting to drop, and that's like federally. Canada-wide, people are becoming less and less impressed. And Ford in Ontario, I mean, he is just a disaster. And more people, he's aggravated. This is the thing. Ford has aggravated enough people by trying to cut costs and trying to cram his beliefs, his strategies, his ideas down the throats of people for long enough. So what are we talking? A year and a half, almost 2 years. He's now really started to piss people off, okay? And because of that, you are seeing sort of the ice cracking under his feet. And things are getting a little bit more, wobbly. It's part of the reason you kind of see him almost sort of withdrawing a little bit, pulling back a little bit from not his policies, but sort of his public face. He's not sort of inserting himself all over the place because on some level he's starting to realize and recognize that's not doing him any advantage. It's not giving him any advantage. So the thing that you have, apply that to Kenny, and what you have is Kenny simply hasn't been in office long enough to piss off enough people to actually start to sway and change public opinion. The people who were scared of what Kenny was talking about, who didn't like what he was talking about, who understood sort of the narrowness, if you will, of the message he was sending, and worse, kind of the big stick that he was going to use to make his message happen. Those people are already, they don't like him. And there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot he is going to do that is going to make them change their mind. The people who really like him and thought that what he was doing was fabulous, he hasn't antagonized them enough. He hasn't made them cranky enough. And so they are still enamored because they still believe that, you know, his overinflated numbers in terms of the Alberta deficit and budgets, they still believe them, even though they were proven to be outrageously, enlarged, way bigger than they should have been, to make his point that Notley had, basically destroyed the province economically. So here, this is how we're sitting right now, okay? People still really like what he's doing because the reality is he hasn't hurt enough people. And that's the thing, right? You may not work for the Alberta government, but maybe your brother does, your sister does, your mother does, your favorite Uncle Joe does. Slowly but surely, kind of the impact of what he has done is going to start trickling down. And people are going to start having to take the blinders off and start to make some decisions, but it is not going to happen yet. So, until Kenny is able to consistently demonstrate that what he has done is caused people to have to walk away from their security, walk away from jobs, and by walking away, I'm not exactly suggesting it was their idea. Until sort of that shift happens, you're going to not really see a pulling back on his, charge ahead and consequences be damned attitude. He's not going to. He is still sitting in a position of strength and power here in Alberta. And I can hear the people listening to this video, particularly in Alberta, just going, oh no, this is not good. It's terrible. And you know what? I'm sorry. It's kind of not great. But this is sort of the message that I want to give you. Prepare for the worst. Hope for the best, okay? I can't sugarcoat this for you. I do you no favors. For right now, his message is continuing to get across, and anticipate that it probably will through the rest of winter, spring, into the summer. You're going to start seeing a weakening because he cannot, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot, oh my goodness, he cannot change the price of a barrel of oil. He can't do that. And so, and more importantly, nor can he change the fact that there is a global climate emergency going on. Literally a crisis that is going to literally impact life on the planet as we have known it. So that whole oil thing is going to peter out. If the Alberta government wanted to do something that was actually helpful, they would start retraining programs and start shifting the attention towards more renewable resources. But he doesn't want to do that. That's not the platform he was elected on. He was elected on bringing all those oil jobs right back. Kind of, I'm sorry, it reminds me of the whole coal miner thing in the United States, right? It is a dying industry. more progressive, new ideas, new ways are starting to surge to the forefront. And oil is not going to, for a long, long time in Alberta, it did this sort of boom and bust thing. It was sort of like every 20, 25 years. You had this surge where, a whole generation kind of made a ton of money in the oil industry, the oil patch industry, etc. And then it kind of slowed down. And then, 20 years later, it kind of boomed up again. But that boom is not going to boom quite so high or quite so loud going forward. So some of those jobs are irrevocably lost. And those people who have those jobs and want those jobs are not yet understanding that he does not have the power to actually significantly change or alter what is going on. Okay, and yet, you know what? If they get the pipeline through to the through BC to the coast, and that makes shipping out the oil easier, yep, there will be a surge, but it is not going to be, frankly, as massive as all of these people are hoping for and expecting. If you, meanwhile, are a student, a university student whose tuition is going to go up by 21% over the next 3 years, this doesn't help you. I'm sorry. Now, if you are a government worker, the good news is that the job loss they're talking about is sort of scheduled to take place kind of in a rolling way over the next 3 years. What you're going to see is his popularity is going to start waning. By this time next year, the burden he carries is going to be much heavier. People are going to start realizing, you know what, you cannot turn back the hands of time. Time marches forward, and with that march forward, there are new innovations, there are new ideas, and there are new attitudes. So he will start to lose momentum about this time next year. You're going to see sort of more of a downward trend, which frankly mimics exactly what happened to Ford in Ontario, right? It took a while for people to start to go, oh my God, what have we done? This guy is out to destroy kind of basically everybody who lives in the province because he is pandering to a few. It's going to take a while for the people of Alberta, and I'm guessing, I don't know a whole lot about Saskatchewan politics, but I imagine you may see sort of that same trend there. Because this really is a countrywide trend, okay? It's not exclusive to one area. You can see this sort of Trumpian attitude, this Trumpian policy of me first, I'm the most important, what I want is all that matters, and anybody else who was hurt or harmed, be damned. That's not my concern. You're going to start to see those attitudes softening and shifting because, as I said, maybe it's Uncle Joe, maybe it's your brother, your sister, your mother, your boyfriend, your best friend, somebody is going to start to be impacted by the cuts that he's making, and people are going to start to recognize that instead of having more money in your pocket, because we're wise enough to know, to be able to choose where we want our dollars to go, people are going to start to realize that, oh, wait a minute, they're cutting services and they're not replacing it with sufficient money. So if, for example, I want that service and you've now not covered it, you are not compensating me enough to actually be able to afford that service. Oh, guess what? Can't afford that service, demand goes down, jobs are cut. It's a rather lovely little circle, and it's like a con game that they're playing. And people continue to be caught up and believe that somehow this time history is going to be different. It's not. And you know why it's not? Because people have not learned the lesson from the past. So therefore, history will continue to repeat. Unless you have a government that finds that balance between providing services and keeping costs stable, right? Allowing for costs to be controlled, but employment and success and prosperity to continue to slowly rise, and increase so that people have stability, you're continually going to get this kind of nonsense that goes on right now. So again, the focus for these governments, these conservative governments, is they throw out the fear of financial instability for a province, or conversely a country. Thank God Scheer did not get in. And as long as they do that, it plays in to one of the greatest fears that humans have, which is not feeling secure or safe. And so what happens is they literally have kind of like the swords that they can slush and cut with, because people are reacting from fear. And so again, there is that I'm the most important thing, and you're not, whoever you are. I recently had somebody ask me if people didn't understand that because of what's going on, say, for example, in the teaching, that parents, by and large, are going to have to spend more time helping their children. They're going to have to spend more time with homework because the teachers aren't providing that, that extra cushion. There's not the resources. They're going to have to contribute more to the classroom. They're going to have to pay more or get more supplies for their children. And they said, this person basically said, how can they not see that? And the short answer at this point is simply because if that person is actually more frightened of not being able to maintain his mortgage and heat the house and put food on the table, bottom line is his child's scholastic achievement, frankly, falls secondary. And don't attack me. I'm a parent. In fact, I have a child taking her after degree in education. I get it, okay? But it's the reality. Let's think about it. Come on. If you don't have enough money to feed your family, whether your child got an A, a B, or a C on a spelling test, it's really, really down on your list of priorities. And until people start seeing these impacts in their daily lives and recognizing that, wait a minute, this is so hurting us, this is damaging us, you are not going to see a significant change. But progress moves forward. That which goes on behind the scenes will be exposed. And there will come a time where people will start to get the message. They will start to recognize, what is going on. And at that point, the UPC government is going to frankly experience a change of fortunes as people start to realize that, in fact, the communications, the things that they were saying that were supposed to strengthen people's economic situations has in fact impaired them. And at that point, you're going to see a shift. So, kind of bottom line is judgment is going to come for them. But frankly, don't look for it for at least 10, 12, 14 months, okay? And it is slow. It is, where did my little chariot go? It is a movement that goes forward, but it moves forward slowly. Kind of, it's not going to be a big radical sweep. It's going to be a slow movement forward as people start to realize that they have been conned. At that point, you're going to see Kenny and his government come crashing down. So, again, not unlike U.S. political readings, when you have these 4 cards showing up in one reading on one topic, it's not a good thing. It doesn't bode well for sort of the long-term the longevity of the current situation. At some point, it is going to crash and burn. So that is why my message literally boils down to prepare for the worst, have hope that it will get better. As much as possible, try not to give in to panic, but understand that the next 12, 18 months in Alberta, specifically, and I imagine in Saskatchewan, Ontario, I'm not so sure. I think Ontario is actually starting that slow 180, and it's starting to shift away from Ford policies. But the next little while is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. There isn't a way to make it better except to tell you that ultimately, the tricks don't work. They're going to end up having to leave in disappointment as people actually evaluate what is going on and recognize that what's going on really is not to their benefit. It will take time. Okay. I wish I could say amazing things like, don't worry, your jobs are safe, it's all going to be fine, it's going to be a quick turnaround. It's not any of that. I'm sorry. But if you do the very best you can to keep yourself in as strong or as safe a position as you can, hopefully with kind of a minimum of stress and distress, you might just be able to survive this thing and come out the other end. It's not as bleak as it feels right now, but right now what you have is energy that's rushing forward that is still not mindful of the fact that they're hitting the edge of the cliff, okay? But that awareness comes. It always does. It always has. It's just going to take a little bit of time. 12, 18 months. In Alberta for sure, you're going to start to see that shifting energy. And bottom line is, 3.5 years from now, when the next election rolls around, it really is going to boil down to whether along the way there is a party that can create that balance, that sense of we are not overspending, we are not recklessly spending, but yet we are mindful of the fact that prosperity and security and safety nets are incredibly important, not only for us as a people, but provincially and indeed federally. Hang in there. It's going to get a little bumpy. We're going to come out the other end. We are. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and understand that stress and aggravation, it sort of amplifies it, right? So you're better off to try to stay as sort of calm and plan ahead as best you can and secure yourself as best you can, and know that, like all tunnels, there's a light and we're moving towards it, even though right now that light is very, very dim and it's far off in the future, but it will get bigger and stronger and brighter, and we will continue to move forward towards that light. Okay. As we move towards the Christmas season, there's a lot of anxiety about providing and giving gifts and, celebrating, etc. I'm cautioning you to keep, your spending under control and, kind of save things for that rainy day. And remember that the joy of the season has very little to do with how many presents are under your tree. It doesn't really matter in the end. In fact, I challenge you to tell me the top 5 things that you guys got for Christmas last year, and I bet most of you are going to draw a blank. But the love, the laughter, the joy, the happiness from last Christmas, you could tell me about that in a heartbeat. All right. I don't do the Canadian readings as often, probably as I should. I will, endeavor to sort of keep on top of it. For now, take care, be well, and I will see you really soon. Bye.